Good morning. Happy Monday morning. We're going to get started here in just a minute. If you would go ahead and type your name in the chat box to sign into class for me. It is Monday morning again, and we had a time change, so I'm all kinds of confused this morning. I didn't know what time it was. I do not like the time change, mainly because it gets dark so early in the like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it makes me feel like I just need to go to bed if it's dark. Let's see, I'm gonna get my screen pulled up here while I'm waiting to see if anybody else joins. Just a minute here. And make sure I got my chat box pulled up. Okay, can you hear me okay? If you could type me a yes in the chat box, please. And if you want to talk on the microphone, you can unmute your phone, your microphone anytime. I just had a weird message on here, so I'm not sure if my sound is working. Okay, good, good deal. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about text connections. You should be able to see my screen that says text connections. Get myself situated here. So I have a couple of useless facts for you today again. Fact number one is the CIA headquarters has its own Starbucks. But the baristas do not write names on the cups, and the receipts say store number one instead of Starbucks. And all of the Starbucks workers have to be escorted when they leave their work posts for any reason, like to go to the bathroom or to leave for the day. I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, CIA agents definitely need their coffee. The other fact is that there was an espresso maker sent into space in 2015. Samantha Cristoforetti was the first female astronaut to get a warm, cozy piece of home sent to her while out in orbit. The Italian Space Agency worked with Italian coffee manufacturer Lavazza to get the coffee capsules flown up and out into space. How about that? I mean, if I was in outer space, they better send me some coffee. So those are your useless facts for the day. Okay, so again, we're going to talk about different types of text. The three different types of text are informational text, scientific text, and technical text. Most of the stuff that we'll be reading on TABE test and GED test are going to be informational text. So what is informational text, you say? Just exactly what it sounds like. It's basically just meant to relay information. We use this every day, all day in our daily lives. No matter what we're doing. We may want to know what time the pool opens or what time the doctor's office opens. We can look these things up. I Google or use my Siri on my iPhone to look these things up 20 times a day. We might want to know what music album has been on the music charts the longest. Stuff like that. The text that you would find to answer those questions is informational text. And by the way, the longest an album has ever been on the charts, it was Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. It was on the charts for 958 weeks. That's equal to 18 years and a little over 5 months. I don't get it. I'm not a Pink Floyd fan. I think they had like one song that I liked, but hey, evidently a lot of people liked it because it was on for a long time. So if we don't know the answer to questions these days, what do people do? They Google it, or they say Google it. And that's kind of the way of life these days. Authors use patterns to provide us with information. The first pattern that we're going to talk about is comparison and contrast. We already know what that is. We've talked about it. We look how things are the same and how they're different. That's compare and contrast. Authors will do this by comparing and contrasting information. We can see this on the news. First, they may give a Republican viewpoint, and then they will show the Democratic viewpoint. They will show how the different parties think alike and how they differ. Authors do the same thing. Sometimes they will compare and contrast things such as dirt and soil. They may talk about how dirt is good for growing food. And then there's different types of dirt that are found on roads and things like that. Soil is different, so they'll compare and contrast. Some of the words to look for when we're trying to figure out if it's comparing and contrast things, some of those words may be like, different, unlike, or by contrast. Those are some of your keywords. An analogy, this is something that compares two or more things in order to clarify or explain something, and answer a question about what other thing is it like or related to. This is a popular analogy that says, just like a sword, the weapon of a warrior, just like a sword is the weapon of a warrior, pen is the weapon of the writer. So basically, that's an analogy, and it is saying that sometimes words, written words, are like a weapon because they can have just as much effect. They have the power to hurt and change, just as if a warrior's sword. So that is an analogy. Analogies often uses similes. They often use words such as like or as, and they compare two things. So have you ever heard the expression light as a feather? Or maybe life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That's a famous line from Forrest Gump. That is one of my favorite movies, and it is absolutely true. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. How about this one? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. His hands can't hit what his eyes can't see. That's from the famous boxer Muhammad Ali. He used to say that. He was famous for that. That is also an analogy. Keywords that indicate analogies may be like, as in can be compared to, and as meaning in the same way. Okay. Category, this is another type of text, shows connection of likenesses among things and answers the questions, what kind is it? What group of things does it belong to? That's a category. So for example, basketball could be the category. So you might answer a question about basketball with basketball words such as slam dunk, free throw, inbounds, 3-point shot, things like that. That would be a category. Signal words to indicate that we're talking about category are types of, are grouped according to. They often use that, and then characterized by. So you could say basketball is characterized by slam dunk, free throw, inbounds. Like those are all words that would go under basketball. So that's categorization. Okay. Any questions so far? I felt like I went through that kind of fast. So if you're good to go, I'll keep on going. Okay, the next type of text is science text. So science texts are not just for scientists. Sometimes scientists write articles for general readers. For example, these days we see a lot of text about COVID-19 and how you should wear your mask, or hand washing for COVID-19. You've most likely read something about COVID-19 or seen something on TV. Doctors' offices have all kinds of information, little posters about how you're supposed to wear your mask, how you're not supposed to wear your mask, how you're supposed to wash your hands. Authors of scientific text also use special patterns to help us understand their point of view. So let's look at some of the patterns used in scientific texts. Definition. Authors describe characteristics, identify parts, gives us examples, or gives us functions. For example, like I said, wearing mask. There may be an article. I've actually seen quite a few articles on how they tell us that masks should cover our nose and mouth. Cloth papers, the cloth paper mask are supposed to be better than fabric or the gator mask that you pull up that look like the little, I don't know, like a scarf that you pull up. Masks help keep germs contained, so the fewer germs are going into the air. So this article would describe masks, they would give us examples, and then they would use function, tell us about the function of the mask. Claim and support. This is another thing that they use. They make a claim and then they back it up with evidence. So for example, they say speed limit saves lives. So the faster a driver is going, the higher the risk of collision and the odds that a crash will cause a death. In 1984, scientists estimated that 55 miles per hour speed limit saved up to 4,000 lives per year. That's from usnews.com. And the claim in that is that speed limits saved lives. And then, so the evidence was, the supporting evidence was that it estimated that 55-mile-an-hour speed limit had saved up to 4,000 lives per year. So that is claim and support. And then there's cause and effect, where the author describes something that happened and tells why it happened. So for example, on August 6, 1945, the US dropped the world's first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. The explosion killed 80,000 people. Tens of thousands more would later die of radiation poisoning. So the cause of this was the US dropped the A-bomb. The effect was that tens of thousands of people died. So that would be the cause and effect. And I thought I always thought this Enola Gay, that was the aircraft carrier. That was that I'm all tongue tied this morning. I need more coffee. That was the aircraft carrier that carried the atomic bomb that they dropped on Hiroshima. And I always thought Enola Gay was an interesting name, and I couldn't figure out why it was named that. So I looked it up. I Googled it, and it was named after this pilot, his mother. So he named that aircraft after his mother. Comparison and contrast. Okay, so that's looking for things that are the same and different. So comparing the two. So entomologists study insects. If they're studying grasshoppers, they will capture grasshoppers. Then they compare them for color, shape, length, weight. They also do DNA tests. This allows them to see how grasshoppers are the same and how they're different. So they would capture these little dudes and then they would look at them. And so if we look at them, we can already see some differences. We can see differences in color, maybe size. This one seems to have like red eyes. These have dark eyes. This one looks like its eyes and head are just kind of shaped different. You can see kind of a difference in their wings. Their wings are a little bit different. Like this one's wings looks like it's only as long as its legs. This one looks like it's a little bit longer. But they would just capture these and they would study them and they would see how they were alike and how they were different. For example, they all have antennas, they all have big eyes, they all have wings, they all have jointed legs. So that is compare and contrast. And then classification. The scientist or writer organizes things by processes, by category or group. A simple way to look at this, if you think about your closet, my closet is an absolute mess. So my closet would not be a good example because I just don't have time for that. But I have my best friend who their closet is an absolute work of art. He only uses black hangers, so he has all the hangers match, which is just weird to me, but this is how he does life. His dress clothes are on one side of his closet, his casual clothes are on the other. He'll even color code his closet. So he'll start like with the blacks on one end and then down to light blues or whites. And it is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I don't know who has time to do this, but that would be considered classifying things that are alike and different. So he is categorizing. So if they're dark or light, they go in a certain place. So that's classification. The process, let's talk about process for a minute. So this is when writer describes how something works or progresses over time. This usually includes steps like of an experiment, maybe. Scientific writing often contains graphs such as flowcharts. I've seen a lot of flowcharts just in my work. I've always worked for grant-funded programs, and there's always a flowchart for us to keep things straight about how our funds are funneled through our system and who qualifies for certain programs and things like that. So I've seen a lot of these. Any kind of job, you're probably going to see some type of flow chart. Graphs, maybe a pie chart, line graph, or bar graph. These show relationships between two things. The table, this is an Excel table. You may have seen these from time to time, but they just show information in just like different rows and columns. So it's how they're related, but it's categorized into rows and columns. That would be a table. You've probably seen this before. This is the scientific table. This is another example of a table, and it is organizing information about the elements And then there may be diagrams. Diagram shows how something is put together or explains how something works. Some diagrams have labels. So here we have a diagram. This is the human heart, and it kind of shows how it's put together, and it labels the different parts of the heart. So that is a diagram. And then scientific text may use photographs. They provide a realistic image of an object or scene. Sometimes there's captions on the photograph that provide more information. This would be, looks like an active volcano maybe, but this would just give you a vivid picture of whatever they're talking about. So sometimes they use graphs, sometimes they use diagrams, sometimes photographs. Okay, how are we doing so far? Do you have any questions so far? Going too fast for you, too slow? Just about right. Get a drink of coffee. Okay, so let's talk about technical text. People read technical text or manuals to learn how to perform a task or gain a deeper understanding of a subject. Technical texts usually are sequential, meaning in order. They first present information. Usually they say first, second, third. It may have a bulleted number or bulleted steps. There may be flowcharts, diagrams like we talked about. Some of your keywords when you're looking at technical text is going to be first, then, next, after that, finally, words like that. This would be an example of a technical text. It gives you information on how to hand wash. So it's going to give you, okay, wet your hands with warm water and then apply enough soap. You know, it's like step 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes through the whole thing. Apparently, a lot of people don't know how to wash their hands because I see these things everywhere. You go to Walmart, you see these in the bathroom. I think they're mainly for the employees and restaurants. You know, you'll see these almost in every restaurant bathroom, and it's mainly for their employees to wash their hands well before they return back to work. But that would be a technical text. Another good example of a technical text would be a car manual. I had to change a car battery out not too long ago. It was very difficult because I have a newer car. It's not, they're not as simple as, you know, your old, I had an old Ford pickup truck and it was super simple. It only had so many parts and you knew where to find them. With these newer cars, it can be ridiculous. So I had to get my manual out just to see how to open the battery case up to even see the battery. Things like using your clock and radio settings, and you know, these new cars have all kinds of settings and crazy things on them. And so I use my manual a lot to know how to do it. But that manual would be an example of a technical text that shows you step by step how to do something. Okay, so today was a really short lesson. Let me stop sharing this for you. But I'm glad it is kind of a short lesson because I do want to give you opportunity to catch up on things whenever you can. So if you have any other assignments other than the ones you're going to have today, it would be a good catch-up day. Let's see here. Let me share this other screen with you. I think this is it. Okay, so today is class 4. We are on November 8th, and this is what I would like for you to do today. We've got text connection practice. We're going to analyze some scientific text, some technical text, I do have a little student survey that I would like you to fill out today. So if you get these 4 done, and then move on to your Common Lit assignment if you have time. And then we will go over at least these first 3 assignments and possibly get to the Common Lit whenever we come back at 11 o'clock. And we will just go over those. So if you get done early with these, just use your time to make up any other class assignments from the last class maybe that you didn't get finished. Do you have any questions for me right now? Okay, if not, go ahead and just sign your name or type your name in the chat box to sign out of class. And then as soon as you do that, you're free to go and work on assignments. And I will meet you back here at 11.